Everglades Forever Act as a result of the fact that the Everglades agricultural area, this large 700,000 acres south of the lake, once they diked off the lake from with a 35-foot high dike back in the late 20s, early 30s, this whole area south of the lake became prime agriculture. And it's farmed mostly for sugarcane. About 500,000 acres is mostly sugarcane. And they were polluting the Everglades by releasing water down through there at about 300 to 400 parts per billion in phosphorus, when the natural Everglades is about 10 parts per billion. So a lot of pollution going south. They finally passed this Everglades Forever Act and made the state build these orange areas called stormwater treatment areas. And while they are basically this low, shallow marsh, there are a lot of plants that uptake the nutrients before it goes and leaves the marsh. The other things they've done in the state is to do these what they call accelerate projects, or about 12 different projects, trying to store water before it dumps out into these canals and into the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. And so there's been a lot of, even in our area, the C-44 canal. If you read the paper today, they're halting progress on that because they don't know if they can continue to get the funding on a state level to get that continued to build. But that was a project in our area. There are other reservoirs and other projects that the state was working on. In the state also passed last year, you might have heard this term, the Northern Everglades Plan. And that's a plan to try to address some of the problems in the Kissimmee region, also in the Caloosahatchee and the St. Lucie region too. And we're glad that they included these estuaries as a part of that, we're restoring some of the watershed and the storage in the watershed. What's happened too is that in year 2000, we passed this comprehensive Everglades restoration plan. And it was a 30-year plus plan to put into place, but it's now the increase in cost has gone over $10 billion. It's supposed to be a 50-50 cost share between the federal and state government. And we finally passed a couple of components at the federal level just this past year. There are 68 components in this plan, and a lot of them are engineering things which we don't necessarily agree with. And I want to point out a few of them, that they're planning on using what we call aquifer storage and recovery wells. It doesn't mean that they want to take water out of Lake Okeechobee when it's too high, pump it into these wells, and store it down there so that they can recover it later. And that aquifer storage and recovery system has really got scientists saying, no way, this is going to work, especially in Florida, because Florida is built on limestone. And limestone is very porous and very karst systems that allows seepage up and down into this aquifer. So they're not going to just put it down there, hope it stays there, and pump it back. It's really not a good project. But part of the components there, they're also doing 170,000 acres of water storage in these reservoirs and other storage systems. As I mentioned, stormwater treatment areas, or STAs, are about 36,000 acres trying to treat the water. It's not just the quantity of the water, it's the quality of the water that's a problem. And then water reuse. We all need to be involved in water reuse. In fact, from Delray Beach south to Miami, you're hear about this year the legislation. They're trying to get rid of the 6 ocean outfalls. We're still treating our sewage and then dumping it out.
Fruit is called a buttonwood.
And you can eat it?
Pardon?
You can eat the fruit?
No, not at all. But this grows in the driest part. Now the thing I like to point out to people that come out here on the trail is if you lived up north, you would have a problem with ice and snow, and oftentimes you use salt to eliminate or to make the ice and salt or the ice and snow melt. And here, if you lived up north, you would know if you get salt in a plant, or if you you may know that down here, that salt will draw the moisture out of the plant and it will kill it. We have a big problem along roads where they use a lot of salt up there. Yet you have 4 plants here that are growing in salt water or on the edge of salt water. And the question is, well, how can they do it when most other plants cannot? You can't take at home a gallon of salt water and water your house plants, or your mother would be very, very perturbed with it.